Going back to Tony Gosling at Bilderberg.org, we can also learn more about the Bilderberg in my film, The End Game, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Okay, in a nutshell, the founding of Bilderberg from the documents themselves, and then the latest info, any intel you've gotten from this year's meeting, what's on the agenda from 2009?
The list this year, Alex, is the Bilderberg press release, have you?
Yes.
You've seen all that then, yeah?
Well, we got their press release, and we put it up, yeah. Okay,
brilliant. Because there were a couple of issues of the press release, some in different languages, but they were talking this time, well, at least they say they were talking about the financial crisis, governments and markets, role of institutions, market economies and democracy, Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan, US and the world, cyber terrorism, which I guess is their fear of the truth coming out on the internet, manifesting as something called cyber terrorism, new imperialisms, protectionism, post-Kyoto challenges. Now, I don't know about you, but that's the longest list of subjects I've ever seen on one of these Bilderberg press releases. And, of course, the Bilderberg-style answer to all this is all these international problems need to be dealt with together by a giant global governmental type system. I mean, that's where they're pushing. But it seems every time there's some kind of crisis, and this is why they're so into these created crises, is they're trying to pull it in and say, it's okay, we've got a plan to deal with it. A little bit like when they appeared at the beginning of the Second World War. They were sort of jumping in there saying, it's okay, we'll deal with it. So they're spending a lot of money, a lot of time and effort trying to think ahead of the game and playing a long game. As I think, we need to do too. So the originals, when we were talking a little bit earlier about the U-boat incident, do you actually know about that? The Hitler's escape boat. Do you know about that one?
Yes, I had read briefly about it in a few history books, but you had more details, so tell us about it.
Well, that's right. I mean, I actually came over to the States, I think it was in 1999, to check this one out, Alex, because it seemed so intriguing. I was having chats on the phone and getting emails from a guy called Ed Michaud I think it's in Concord, Massachusetts he's based, but he was doing diving off of Cape Cod, and he's someone that kind of does research in libraries, museums and that kind of thing into wrecks. And he discovered this wreck, this U-boat, which had sunk off Cape Cod on the 25th of August, 1944. It was a very special, very peculiar type of U-boat. Only one of its kind was ever built. It's called a Type X-1B. You won't find it in any of the books that there are published about submarines, but he's managed to get the plans for it, all sorts of stuff. But there was only one ever built, and it was in port in Danzig, sitting there, waiting for any reason that Hitler or the high command of the German military might need to escape. It was sitting there ready. And the other thing with this U-boat, it was enormous. It also had a gigantic great hold. So it wasn't your normal U-boat. It wasn't a fighting U-boat. It was able to transport vast amounts of goods. And Ed had done his research, and one of the reasons he was interested in this wreck, which is now apparently still lying off Cape Cod in quite difficult diving waters, unfortunately, but it's lying there with a whole cargo load of gold on board. Because what Ed believed was that towards the end of the war, the Nazis started shipping their gold into the U-boat so that Hitler could escape with the gold across the Atlantic or wherever he wanted to go underwater.
Well, we know a lot of it went to Central and South America. That's on record that massive amounts of gold, diamonds, artwork, and Nazis went to Argentina, you name it.
And I don't think a submarine would be the best way of transporting gold around the world, but I think it certainly makes it an intriguing prospect.
Well, see, the Germans had the big milk cows, is what they called them, large troop-carrying, cargo-carrying subs. And we know milk cows went to South America, carrying all the goodies. Stay there, Tony Gosling. Let's fast forward when we get back to current times. Let me tell you a little bit about one of our great sponsors, HomeGain.com. This is the place to get you started buying or selling a home, finding a realtor, and getting any real estate questions answered. Go to HomeGain.com and see what I'm talking about. All you need to do is type in your home address, and you will get an instant free estimate of your home's value online. This is a great way to be able to monitor the value of your home. And again, it's absolutely free. There are tons of tools to help you. For instance, if you want to remodel your home, go to HomeGain.com. Use their Home Sale Maximizer to help you determine which home improvements can most increase your home's value before you put it on the market. For 10 years, these folks have been helping home sellers and buyers. Visit their link at Infowars.com. Look for Max, the orange home gain gorilla, to help you with any real estate needs you might have. You'll love this site. It's homegain.com, HOMEGAIN.com. Check them out today. Other interesting history, though. I mean, it's now out in mainline news that it was Nazi money helping to found it, kind of merging with the British and U.S. Elites. How is their agenda going? According to Jim Tucker and Daniel Estelin and so many others that have sources inside, it is not going well, and that they realize that people are waking up to the New World Order. Is that what you've got? Because I know you have a lot of contacts, do constant research.
I know. I think essentially what they're working to is a two-pronged failure, really. One is a failed plan in the first place. I mean, a lot of these plans were drawn up, many, many, many years ago, and they just don't work in the modern world. The other thing, of course, is it's a little bit like the Battle of Arnhem in the Second World War, when the gliders came in to as part of a kind of large paratroop invasion. The first thing the Germans got their hands on was the plans. Now, this is what we've got as well. Is we've got a lot of the plans of what they're intending to do. I mean, not necessarily the individual operational details, but the larger plan. We've got it. It's come out before.
We have the blueprints of the Death Star. We have the blueprints of the Death Star, and if we will just mount an X-wing attack, we can beat them, and we have done that.
And, of course, this is really, ultimately, is going to be, and is already, a massive battle for hearts and minds. And, of course, if the hearts and minds are on the case before the battle starts, then there's no chance of taking them away. So I think this is, the sort of meta looking at this whole thing from afar. I think there's, yes, of course, the Bilderbergs have got some serious problems, and they've got some even bigger problems after this year's conference, because it was really the first time I've ever seen a mainstream British newspaper or TV do a really good in-depth analysis and coverage. And Charlie Skelton's pieces on The Guardian Online, I'm sure you've been following those, Alex.
We've had him on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And this is the first, and it's interesting that we see The Guardian as a left paper as the first one to really stick the knife into Bilderberg.
Now, go ahead.
Yeah, because, for me, I've come from a sort of reasonably left-wing trade union background, and I've always thought that the biggest thorn in these people's sides is organised labour, well-organised and representative. I mean, for example, on a programme I do here this evening in Bristol, we had a guy from the Communication Workers Union, which represents the telecom workers and postal workers in the southwest of England, and this one chap is representing 30,000 workers. I think this is really what the Bilderbergers fear, almost more than anything else, is organised, ordinary people, organised, ordinary workers, etc., against them. And
that's what Webster Tarpley says. That's why they're so pleased to be flushing Chrysler and GM down the toilet right now, because then only the state will be left to help people, and it's controlled by the eugenicists at the Bilderberg Group. So they want us coming hat in hand, begging to them to be literal sharecroppers in their global plantation. In closing, Tony, so you concur with the other intel from the different perspectives we've gotten that Bilderberg is really starting to realize that, one strength they have is they stick with the same plan and don't give up, but that's also a weakness when you're carrying it out over 50, 60 years, because despite all their great wealth, we have their plans. Their plan wasn't set up and designed for this hyper-modern world. The control grids they tried to build have kind of backfired on them. Answer that question, and then finally, take Charlie Skelton, the Guardian reporter, take the other reporters. They arrested a whole bunch of people from Portuguese news and U.S. news and British news. And if they were smart, they just meet and not act like it was a big deal, but still, have it be closed door. Instead, they enjoy having people arrested. They enjoy having the army out. They enjoy shutting things down for 2.5 miles in the middle of a giant tourist area and arresting tourists. I mean, isn't their arrogance, their hubris going to be their downfall?
Well, I think that is actually a massive tactical error on their side, because their hotel is sealed off well away from anybody. They are actually showing their hand by acting like that, and this is one of the reasons I think why Charlie was so annoyed. Now, I don't know if Charlie mentioned it, but also the Times covered it as well this year, and it's also, I mean, to see the way these newspapers operate in this kind of masquerade of competition, knowing Murdoch's outlets, Sky News, the Times, the Sun, etc., is that they also they only act and they only do stuff when somebody else is doing it, and this is what they're making out, that they're actually also interested in covering this stuff. But you can be guaranteed, if the Guardian hadn't been covering it, there would have been not a word in the Times would have been about it. The other newspaper that covered it here in Britain was the Sunday Express, which did a fantastic little piece calling them the Bilderberg Illuminati. So this is for certainly in the English language newspapers, this is the best year I've ever seen for Bilderberg coverage.